Even the migrants who are at the shelters in New York City are working. People don't want to leave. There's a necessity.
Yeah.
So if they had an opportunity to come here to work temporarily and then go back, they would leave, come in and out. We do a very good job of selling to the world that everything's great. It's all sunny. There's a lot of money. It's safe. And that's why people come, because they're like, well, it's safe there. It's not safe in my country. The problem is politicians got a hold of this, made it into a problem. But they've convinced so many people that it's a problem that we have to change the mindset. And it's not, it's not easy, man. Again, we're tribal. People are really furious. The country is divided.
Welcome back to another episode of Coffee, Matcha and Soul. I'm here with Sarah Varchpedian, with Zaire Montes, and we have a special guest tonight. He is an incredible human being. He's a friend. I have a lot of things to say about this guy, but let me just start by saying that he is a SAG actor. He's a producer. He's an influencer. He has over 800,000 followers across different platforms. And besides that, he's an immigration attorney with over 20 years of practice. He has appeared in different shows like CNN, MSNBC, Telemundo, and Univision. He has been using his platform, he has been using his social media to reach thousands, not even thousands, millions of immigrants. Today, we have with us Anibal Romero.
Hey.
Welcome to the show, brother.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
I have a lot of questions for you.
Yeah, go right ahead.
The first thing I want to know is who you are as a person. And if you can tell us a little bit about your personal story, your personal journey, and then how you have been able to integrate what you have here inside. The other day we were having a conversation, you were telling me about the fire, the inner creative fire that you have as an actor, as a producer, as a creator. And combining that with all the wonderful work that you have been doing as an immigration attorney. How did that happen? What's going on with the human being, with the human side?
Yeah. All right, let's see. How did this whole thing start? Let's go back to high school, right? When growing up in Queens, like you, I wasn't able to sort of find myself. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I didn't do well in school. I was growing up in urban New York City, in a pretty rough neighborhood, gangs, crime, a disaster. I mean,
what year are we talking about?
We're
roughly?
in the late 80s.
And okay.
And my parents were immigrants, and their dream was to sort of, I hope, we're going to work hard. My dad was a construction worker. My mom stayed home, but worked in factories a little bit. But for them, it was more of like, we're going to work hard. We're going to bust our butt. And then I want you to kind of go to school and do well and hopefully become a doctor or a lawyer or something. So there was a little bit of pressure there too. But in the real world, there was nothing. It was just like the streets, right? So there was always this desire with my friends, and growing up, I was the one who wanted to let's get some cameras and then let's do some skits and let's do this. That was my way of sort of enjoying myself, because on the street it sucked. It was like breaking into homes and doing stupid things that I didn't want to do. So
he's laughing because he knows.
Yeah, I mean,
too. That's why I asked when are we talking about, what years? Because New York City in the 80s, early 90s, hopefully not, but it was a very different time though. And I don't think
there was I always call. I mean, it's like a little subculture. Breakdancing was big. Hip hop was getting kind of started. And that was it.
I'm sorry for the interruption. Sarah has a big question now that he's drinking his matcha. He wants to know if you're going for matcha or coffee.
I'm a coffee guy.
There you go.
I'm from coffee, dude.
I won this one.
Yeah. Well,
after a while.
I mean, it's so funny because I'm thinking, I don't even know what that is, man. I'm from Queens, dude. There's no such thing as that, right? We had we were growing up with Colombians, and we had some of this. Matcha is like the New York City.
I discovered this later on, much later on.
We had 40-ounce bottles of beer and maybe coffee, but and a lot of fruit juice. Remember the 25
yes,
cent
the
juice?
25-cent
That's
juice.
what we
I
drank.
remember.
Full of sugar.
Yes.
Which explains, breaking into homes and stuff.
The rush.
Sugar rush.
But yeah, I was the guy who was always trying to like do something fun, do something creative. But at
Like,
the same,
let's record getting into the houses and just,
yeah, well, maybe not that, but sort of, let's turn on a camera and somebody hold a camera and we'll pretend we're doing this, whatever. But then there was the pressure of like, we also need you to do something in school. And quite frankly, that wasn't happening until I met a high school teacher. Somehow he found a liking in me. I started taking government classes. I started excelling in government classes. The whole idea of separation of power. So I found like two, things that I really enjoyed and I can connect with.
Yeah.
For the first time ever. Dramatic arts and like government, right? What's interesting was that even though I joined like the play and I started getting involved, and that's where I kind of really wanted to go. I felt this pressure from like immigrant parents. I was like, dude, what are you going to do? What are you going to become a theater actor? And how much money you're going to make, right? The whole point here is to kind of succeed. It's this idea that you only
come to America to succeed,
right? And you're you are our only son, right? And I'm single. I'm the only child. So there was a lot of pressure. So I figured, you know what? Okay, even though I enjoy dramatic arts, I think I have to kind of figure out my way and maybe I'll become a lawyer and see what happens. So in the beginning, it was more of like pressure. Like, this is what I have to do. I can't, I was like, again, I saw how hard my dad worked, my mom. I felt like I had to do this for them. It's interesting. I was doing it for them. That said, I now thank them because quite frankly, I've had a successful career. I enjoy what I do. I've done, been doing this for 20 years with my own office, but before then I worked for firms. So I've been kind of involved in the legal field for about 31 years, kind of. And I love it. I still love it. That said, there was always this desire to kind of go back to what I really kind of wanted to do. And this idea of, acting or whatever it is for young people is not necessarily true, but we kind of buy into that. And I'm sure there are a lot of actors out there at heart, but decided I'm not going to take that step anymore. It's over. And I said, no way. I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to give it a try. I have no idea what this means because it's been 30 years since we did a production in the theater group. So during COVID, that's when I decided to start taking classes and I again fell in love with it, just like I did, 30 years ago.
I feel that I have to say this because you told me the story and I found it fun and fascinated that you were with a client and I don't remember if it was a guy or a woman, but the person said, "Are you an actor?"
Yeah.
And you were her lawyer, right? And you were like, wait, what? Can you tell the story?
Yeah, 100%. It was
and
weird.
how that led you to acting classes and the whole thing?
That, I talk about this desire, but I needed someone to sort of say, I think I see something in you. This guy sits in front of me and he's like, I'm talking about his case and he just says, "Are you an actor?" Just out of nowhere. And I said, "What the hell are you talking about?"
Wait. But so
this is my office.
At that time, you were having the thought of
I've always had it. But you never, I go back to, you're in your 40s. Everyone's going to be, until now, what do you mean you're an actor? You're 40. What the hell? So this client sat down and he said to me, "Are you an actor?" I said, I don't understand the question. You're here in my office. He's like, "No, I just thought that, I don't know, I see something in you. And I think you should," and he writes this, "I think you should call this guy." And he gives me this like paper with someone's name. So I kind of took the paper, I kind of laughed it off. Obviously, I'm thinking, that's kind of cool. He called me an actor, right? That's kind of, especially if this is something you've wanted to do. What is it that he saw that I have not seen? So weeks passed and I forgot about it. And then it's kind of like a movie, right? You kind of look down and you see the piece of paper. It's now wrinkled, dirty, and there's like the producer's name. So I picked up the phone and I said, this is the craziest thing I'm going to do, but I have nothing else to do today. So I'm just going to call this guy. Guy picks up the phone and he's like, hello? I'm just like, hi, I'm not really sure why I'm calling you, but somebody said I should call you. He's like, well, same thing. Tell me your story, blah, blah, blah. And then he was the one who said, I think you should, take classes and have fun and see what happens.
And who was this person?
He's a producer in New Jersey. He's, doing his own thing. He's produced a couple of movies here and there. An older guy.
Yeah.
And he said, take some classes and call me after you take classes. And I said, okay, that's the weirdest conversation ever. But it led me to go to a acting school.
Yeah.
At HB in the Village.
There you go.
Yeah. And then I never went back. It's been now 4 years in September. I went from classes to shooting scenes to agents in LA, New York, to theater, off Broadway, to TV a little bit.
Producing your own content.
To producing my own content. And here is, this is where I am right now. Kind of figuring both things out. I'm still an attorney. I still care about what I do, especially now. And at the same time, acting and producing and telling stories I know, which is what I've been doing for the past 20 years.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out how to tell those stories.
Yeah. Do you feel that they go in tandem, both professions, in a way?
I think so. I mean, look, yes. This is what's interesting, right? At the end of the day, when a client sits in front of me and tells me his story, I kind of have to put it on paper and then deliver it to somebody else and try to persuade that I have something here. It's very similar, right? You have an idea, you put it on a script, and then you show it to people to cause an emotion, right? Same thing here, right? I kind of take it to a jury, to a judge, and try to convince them. It's a little bit, the stakes are different, right? Obviously, someone's life is on the line here. But in a way, it's the same thing. It's storytelling. That's what I do. A client tells me his version. Today I had a call. I said, you tell me everything, and I will figure out, I'm the editor at the same time, I will figure out what I take to the judge. Because I can't go in with this crazy idea that's not going to make any sense.
Yeah.
Tell me, I know what they're looking for. At least I have an idea and we'll give it a try. And with the judge, I tell a story. I try to persuade. I try to cause a reaction to say, can my guy stay in the country? And sometimes I win and sometimes I don't. But it's the kind of the same thing in a way. Yeah, it's interesting.
We were having a conversation the other day with a really good friend of ours. He's a film director and producer, Nico de Blasi. And we were talking about being in the zone. He was telling us that his son is an actor and he tells his dad, right? He's like 7, right? 7, 8, like something 10. Like that. Like 10, 7, 10, in that range. And he tells Nico, listen, when I'm acting, I'm in the zone. Like, I feel like I'm connected to source. I'm quoting him here, right? Do you feel that way when you're narrating those stories in front of?
Oh yeah, 100%. You have these like visual images of whatever was happening to this person back home. Yeah, you're basically have to tell a story. You're again trying to tell this story to cause a positive emotion. So it has to make sense. It has to persuade. It has to convince. You can't just like throw facts out there that make no sense. So I kind of have to visualize what was happening, give it a little bit of drama.
Yeah.
There has to be.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's no drama, then everyone's going to, I'd lose him.
Yeah.
And the whole idea is to say, listen, this guy, crossed the border for a reason. If he returns to his home country, they're going to kill him because he's gay or because he's a member of he has certain political opinions. And, who's going to kill him? Where are they going to kill him? Why? What happened? When did it happen? Let me tell you a story of when it happened. It was back in Venezuela. And it was 2004. He was at a student protest, and I'm already visualizing all this, right?
Yeah.
And he was just there protesting what he thought was right. And all of a sudden, police officers came. He was arrested. He was put in a car. They put a bag over his head. There was darkness. He didn't know what was happening. Later, he found himself at a local jail. Then his mother, all these things are happening at the same time. And you see, like, either the judge or if it's a criminal case or whatever, a jury is like listening to you and you're like, I got this. I see it. I see what's happening. Yeah. And you look at people's reaction and you kind of feed off of their reaction. Yeah. If I see some guy's eyes rolling, I'm like, man, I got to change the story up now because they're going to fall asleep. But in a way, right? It's kind of like, and then now that I'm into, taking classes and getting into a scene, it's the same story. We have a script.
Yes.
But I'm reacting to how you're reacting.
Yeah.
And the camera can pick that up or can't or whatever. And when you're on stage, you also feel things.
Yeah.
You change it up a little bit. I was telling you the other day or I don't know who I was telling, but sometimes, every day on stage, it's different, right? You feel same exact same exact scene, but my partner reacted differently and it caused something else in me. So now I remember it was our fourth night and there was a scene where I'm sort of getting into this big argument with my son and something about his hair I didn't like. Something that day, I was like, that hair is so freaking annoying right now. And I just grabbed his hair and started pulling it. He didn't care. He was cool about it. He loved it. And that was the only night I did it. I'm not saying we should do that, but I'm just saying that moment, that's what I had to do. Because the hair kept waving while I'm trying to explain something to him, and it was pissing me off, right? And the night before, it wasn't waving, so I was able to get my message across.
Yeah.
And I was playing a Vietnam vet in the 70s who finds out his son is a transvestite, and he shows up in a woman's dress. And I'm like, what the hell is this? And not only was he dressed like that, his hair kept waving, man. It was so annoying.
Yeah.
So I just kind of pulled his hair in the middle of on stage with hundreds of people watching. He was cool about it. I was like, dude, I'm so sorry. He's like, oh, it's fine. It worked.
Yeah.
It worked.
Talk about being in the zone.
Yeah.
Being
in the zone. Yeah.
So let's go back to Queens and late 80s. So
I hope I don't get in trouble for that. I mean, there's what's called statute of limitations where they can't really come after me anymore, right? But
so, back to this kid with all this creative impulses and desires, but at the same time, the pressure, the social pressure, coming from, an immigrant's household where you have a reason to be here. I mean, and then you decide to go to law school, right?
Sure. Well,
and then what happened?
No, I kind of gave up on that, right? I sort of, I figured this isn't for me. This isn't for kids growing up in urban cities, I guess. Obviously there were plenty of great artists, but in my case, it was like, this is not for me. I have to figure out my way. So I go to law school. I end up doing well, got my first job. And obviously I tried to make a life from what I had, right? From what I had at the time. And again, I want to make sure it's clear that I actually really enjoy that. I mean, I'm glad I made that decision as well because it gives you financial security.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I can act now because I'm financially secure. That's the reality of it without sounding... it's really tough for many people to figure it out, right? Yeah. I'm like, where am I going to get my next paycheck? And that's what most people do. In my case, I have a firm. I've been doing my things. I'm okay. So I can play with no pressure, right? If I audition and they say, you don't got the job, fine, I don't care. Or I go in there, I'm like, this is what I got. If you like it, you like it. If you don't like it, you don't like it. That's fine, fine. And some people, I kind of like that. I'm like, I have no, it helps a lot.
Freedom.
It's freedom. It's so easy to and listen, in the beginning, I'm not going to say, everybody wants the job, now, even if it's not for the money. So you get in your head and you're like, oh my God, is somebody looking? And then all of a sudden now you're lost. Yeah. And you look lost on camera and they're like, thank you. So again, going back, yes, there was a lot of pressure. I'm glad because I think, I understand why they were doing it.
Yeah.
right?
And you ended up making it a mission because right now, like you say something, you said something before. You said, I did it for them.
Yeah.
Because they were immigrants and they were here busting their, but you didn't do it for them. You did it for millions of immigrants right now. You did it for a big cause at the end of the day because you are changing the lives of immigrants, especially nowadays in what we have been going through in the last weeks. And you have an important role in society right now because you're shedding a light to these people who are lost.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. And again, when I said I was doing it for them, I'm talking to my 18-year-old self, right? At some point, when you fall in love with what you're doing, you realize, okay, I have a real opportunity to help a lot of people here. And not always. It's sad that I go in there hoping to almost like a doctor save lives, and it doesn't happen sometimes. Sometimes I've had cases where there's nothing I can do. I mean, terrible cases. I have so many stories that there's nothing I can do. I've gone to court with two exact same set of facts. Same thing. One guy gets released, the other guy doesn't. One family's hugging me, the other family is cursing the crap out of me.
And is it because different judge,
same judge, but like different moments. Human beings are weird. I mean, sometimes the judge decides
different jury.
No, well, in that case, it's a judge. I remember clearly it's the same set of facts. She just decided she wasn't into his energy at the time. That's crazy, but that's crazy.
I mean,
it's discretion. Yeah.
It's so interesting to me the way you are describing it right now. You said the judge didn't feel into his energy or didn't connect with his energy. And at the end of the day, it's also energy. It's whatever you're receiving, whatever is happening, whatever is flowing.
But I also read something, it's pretty interesting because as you said, we're humans, right? Yeah. And there was this article, I don't remember exactly, but it was saying that if you go to court first thing in the morning, you have better chances than if you go at the end of the day when all they want is to leave because they're hungry and they want
the witch hour, right? The witch hour.
So things like that.
Fridays is probably better. Everybody's like in a better mood. Tuesdays is kind of like
See,
and
it's also it's just like theater. It's whatever happens in the moment.
It's the moment.
It's a moment.
Yeah. And that's something I feel a lot of people don't know. I mean, you can have the best lawyer. Sometimes it just doesn't work out.
Yeah.
And listen, you can always appeal. You have a whatever strategy, but every day is a different. It's you're right. It's kind of the same thing. You don't know what to expect. All of a sudden, you're in the theater, and the light just comes right down. You have to improvise.
Yes.
And I've done that.
Yeah.
It's so funny. My first. I'm a big risk taker, and I think it's a funny story that people would appreciate. But so I opened up my office, and I had been working in law firms. But when you work at bigger law firms, you don't really go to court. You just sit in a room and do a lot of research and writing. They don't send you to court. Court, TV court. That's just like not real because big corporations are not going to send some 25-year-old to court, right? So the big partners go to court, and then we do all the research and the writing, and we hand everything ready. We get paid good money to do that.
Yeah.
But when I opened my office, I mean, I had to go to court. And even though I had been practicing for a long time, I had never been to court, ever. I just knew what I saw on TV, just like you. So the guy's in jail, right? And I got to get him out. I was paid to get him out, right? I kind of had an idea what I had to do, but I had never done it. So I go to court, and the story made sense. It was a case where the government was claiming that he had tried to choke his wife. The wife is in my office saying this never happened. So logically speaking, I'm like, come to court with me because you are the witness that this didn't happen, and that should be, enough. So I'm there, and the judge is like, okay, we're going to hear this case. And then she kind of talks about what the charges are. It says here he tried to choke his wife. I'm like, Your Honor, that didn't happen. And she's like, excuse me? I just kind of interrupted. That didn't happen. What do you mean? Did you guys see my cousin Vinny? Basically, Judge, that didn't happen. What do you mean it didn't happen? what do you mean it didn't happen? It didn't happen, Your Honor. And in fact, his wife is right here, and she can tell you it didn't happen. The judge is like, what, you want to like call her on the stand and bring her and we can like swear her in? And I said, sure, let's do that. Just like in the movies. And the judge is like, no, that's not the way we do things. You need to give me something called an affidavit. Have you ever heard of an affidavit? I said, but she's here, right? And she's like, counselor, that's not the way it works, all right? We're not going to hear her case. I don't want to hear what she has to say. So I'm just going to give you another date so you can prepare. And I said, when's the next date? Let's say it was February 5th. And she's like, you can come back March 5th. March 5th, that meant he was going to be detained for another month. March 5th. Now here comes the improv. I have to improvise. What the hell am I going to do? If I don't say anything, it's March 5th. He's locked up. The wife is going to be like, you are a disaster. The guy's going to be like, what's going on? So I was like, Your Honor, I think I saw this in a movie. May I approach? What? May I approach? Sure. So I walked up and I said, Your Honor, it's my first time in court. Please don't do this to me. Please don't do this to me. I've never done it. She's like, yeah, but you can't just like. Okay. All right. I'm going to give you 4 days. Come back in 4 days with an affidavit, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So I was like, okay. 4 days I can deal with, not a month. So then she put the calendar back on. 4 days. I went back. I got him released. We can look up the story. He killed her. It's bad. We can look it up on Google.
Wait. So you got him out of jail and he killed her?
And then he killed her. And we can Google the story and you're going to be like, holy shit, he stabbed her to death.
And wait a second.
Yeah.
This is partially what inspired A Lawyer in New York?
Yes.
Like the series?
Yes, that's a part of the story.
Yeah.
Wow. It's part of the story. I mean, some of these stories, obviously,
twisted,
I'm twisting it a bit in this case. I don't want to blow it, but who's ever interested in watching it. But yeah, it's basically my stories. And I had to go back to the judge, by the way. In like a few months after the case was called, nobody knew about this because the court doesn't necessarily know what's everything that's happening. The story ends really bad in the sense that, Your Honor, I have bad news. My guy's not here because he committed suicide as well. So he killed himself. He killed his wife. And some lawyer who had been there for like 20 years, he's sitting in the back. He's like, did he pay you?
Wow.
I said, yeah. He's like, okay.
At least.
At least.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask when you
Sorry if I threw you off. But
No.
It's a good coffee, man.
It's a good coffee, right?
No, it's fantastic. I for a second, I was like, oh, that must have been the moment that really inspired you to say, like, oh, I found my calling. But then after that happened...
No, I was like, what the hell am I doing here, man? That was the first of many, by the way.
How many years between the moment you got him out of jail and the moment...
Oh, no, a week later.
Oh, no.
A week later.
Wow.
The guy's psycho, man. I don't know what I mean, listen, how would I know, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of it that a lot of people don't understand, but like, I don't know. The wife is telling me none of this ever happened.
Yeah.
Or the girlfriend at the time, I guess.
Wow.
But, okay, putting that horrible incident aside, when did you actually feel like I found my calling and, I love the work I'm doing. I feel like I'm doing important work. When did you have that moment of realization?
I mean, I think it's interesting because I was working really in at a big firm and doing a lot of corporate stuff, but my pro bono work was mostly doing immigrant work, refugees from different parts of Europe and Africa. And that's when I realized this is what I really like. This corporate crap, I don't like this stuff. And I was going to Mexico, 5-star hotels, representing oil companies. And I thought, this is all nice, but oh my God, it's so dry. Yeah. There's no humanity here. It's just a bunch of oil companies trying to figure out how to... I never forget a case I worked on before I became immigration attorney. It was an oil company that had dumped their equipment in the rainforest and destroyed everything. And obviously they were being sued, blah, blah, blah. But reading through the papers, it was more of a business decision to just dump it and pay the fine.
Wow.
because it's too expensive to move all this stuff.
Wow.
So just dump everything.
Destroy
Who cares
the forest,
that
the
you are
animals.
causing cancer with the indigenous communities?
Wow.
We'll just pay the price later because
Wow.
it's cheaper to pay that because they're not really worth that much legally than to take our equipment back to wherever they were coming from. So it was a business decision to just dump it.
Sounds like a criminal decision to
But
say.
but they get away with stuff like that.
Say,
So they do
let
that.
these people die.
Well, they're
because
not thinking it's going to happen, right? Later in life, things happen, and then they can, why do we have cancer with this community? And then they bring it back to, well, look at all this oil spill, look at everything that's here, and then and then obviously corporate America will say, well, we're going to challenge that report. That's not necessarily true, and then it becomes this thing that's never ends litigation that lasts 20 years, and you can easily get an expert that says no, this causes cancer, and then you get another expert that says no, sir. It's the ayahuasca they're drinking that causes cancer. Whatever, man. It's
wow.
Wow.
That's terrible.
yeah. But that's when I was like, this is not what I want to do.
But you were doing the pro bono work.
The pro bono was mostly immigrant work, right? So that's
what led you to.
Yeah, it was like day-to-day things, meeting mom and pop. I came from, Europe, and we're refugees from Ukraine or from wherever, and like we want to stay in the United States. And I thought that there was so much more there.
Yeah.
And then I realized because I speak Spanish, and there aren't that many attorneys out there, I think, that speak Spanish. I mean, there are, but, I said I could go back to Queens, to my neighborhood, start my own office. I actually can do pretty well. And that's exactly what happened. I figured it out. I was like, I have no competition, really.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And plus, I kind of really, I feed off of people and their energy. So I feel like I do a lot of that type of work in my office. I just don't listen to a case.
Yeah.
I look at, I feel what they're telling me.
Yeah.
When it comes to immigration, what do you think is like the biggest obstacle society-wise for the immigrant?
I think people don't really understand that, I've been, especially now, and it's been going on since the first election, the first time Trump was elected. I think they don't understand that there really is no law that allows them to become legal. I think people think it's just a matter of laziness. I've seen the guy's been here 20 years. Well, why hasn't he gotten his citizenship? Because there's no way. The rules have not changed. The last time we had major immigration reform was 1986. That law is now ridiculous. We need to update the law, but it became so political in the last 15 years that we have not been able to update the law. Laws have to get updated based on many different things. And I think a lot of people think that it's just a matter of laziness, when in reality, there's no way. And to think that you're just going to get rid of 20 million people, that's stupid. No, that you can't do that. There's no way that's going to happen.
Like, why do you think, like, American society still thinks that immigrants are a threat?
Yeah, listen, at the end of the day, I think politicians have obviously tried to convince people of this, right? They've created this narrative for political reasons, for power. People are not necessarily exposed in certain places to immigrants, so they don't really understand them. What's interesting is if you really look at the map, people who are, have you noticed that mostly immigrants live in states where people are pro-immigrant, right? Because there are a lot of Americans who have nannies, cleaning, golf clubs in America are, who mows the lawn and all that, who cleans up the golf. So, and in those states, it's interesting how they're not necessarily anti-immigrant, right? It's mostly people who are not exposed, right? So and we're very, as human beings, and I believe this is my personal opinion, I think we're very, we all are, including myself, we're very tribal, right? So when we meet people that we're not familiar with, it's scary. Yeah. And I think there's a reason, maybe an evolutionary reason, why we're afraid of what we don't know, right? That happens.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you get a family who feels safe and all of a sudden now you have an immigrant family moving next to them who speak a different language, it causes them to feel insecure in the way, or they're like, I don't. That's human nature. But then once they meet them, they realize, hey, I mean, they're not like, they just speak a different language, or a different color, or a different, a different type of food they eat, right? And I grew up. For me, it's easy. I grew up in an immigrant neighborhood. I mean, I had friends that were Haitian and Sikh, Colombian, everything, Romanian. I mean, if we have time, it's so interesting. But I have a story that I've thought about someday putting it on film, even if it's a short film. But it happened in high school. So if we have minutes, right?
This is, please go ahead.
I think this is a really cool story that kind of sums everything up. And I've told this story before, and I'm so excited that someday maybe I'll put it on paper, and then I can do something with this. But so I'm in high school, and we had something called intramurals, where the teams, the class would, they would pick teams, and we would play sports. And this is back in the late 80s, early 90s. And there was a big wave of immigrants from Eastern Europe, Romania, because of the fall of the Soviet Union and all that. So we had Romanians, we had different people. Some of them didn't even speak English, right? And they were recent arrivals, and they were in my class. And some of them, they would show up to the gym class in shorts and like regular shoes, not even sneakers, and regular socks, when in New York City, everyone had their style, right?
Yeah.
So when it came time to play football, American football, everyone picked their team. And for whatever reason, I was out of a team. So the African-American kids picked their team. The kids that were on the football team stuck together. Then we had this other team. And I remember clearly, I was not on any team. And I went to the instructor and I said, I'm not on any team. He's like, you can pick your team. So I kind of look to my right and I see all these like immigrants standing there, not even knowing what the hell was happening. But I noticed something. I saw like athletic builds. Like I saw these kids. I'm like, these kids look pretty athletic. So I went up to them and I said, let's do team. And they're all like, yes, team. You're on my team. Come on. So I brought them on. They were on my team. Now, they did not speak English. I didn't speak Romanian or whatever. But I said to them, I grab this ball, I throw, you run, catch. Yes. Okay, so it was like crazy. So I have to sum this up because it's a longer story. So we started the tournament. Okay. It was the funniest thing ever, watching these guys like talk with shoes running through the gym.
Wow.
And we won like the first game.
Wow.
We won the first game.
Wow.
Right? So we win the first game. This is what's cool about the story. The next game, we tied. We didn't win.
Okay.
We tied. But it was the funniest thing watching. Okay, look, come here. Mr. Ravi, come here. You run. I just like make up names, right? Because I didn't know their names. You run. You cross here and I throw the ball. You catch. It's called touchdown. Yes. So he would like run. The other guy would block. The big kid block. Boom, boom. So the second game, it was a tie. Then we played an additional 5 games and we won them all. So now we had won 6 games. We tied 1. There was one team that went undefeated. So at the end, and here comes my lawyering as well. This is so interesting. At the end, the tournament was over. And I said, okay, playoff time, right? Because that's when we get to meet. And the instructor said, no playoffs. The team with the best record wins. I said, wait, whoa, wait a second. That was not that was not the rule in the beginning. The rule in the beginning was that we were going to have playoffs. We don't have time. I said, you can't do that. We've worked hard here. These kids don't even speak English. You need to give me. And he's like, we're going to huddle. We'll decide. If the 3 guys went in the back, they huddled, right? Again, with the undefeated team. All like the kids, American kids, they know football. They won every game. We didn't play them. And then the teacher comes back and he's like, look, we're going to do something. we can't change the rule. They have won, but we're going to give you one game with these guys for fun. And I said, I'll take it. It's like a pride game. I'll take it. So the next day we played, the whole gym was packed.
Wow.
Packed.
Wow.
And with all these little immigrant guys who had just arrived, we beat them.
Oh, wow.
We beat them and we just
Wow.
like celebrated. I was like, I don't give a hell if we end up, we beat these guys.
Yeah.
And it's so cool because it was a story about like, just give them a chance, man.
Yeah.
Nobody
That's
gave them a
beautiful story.
chance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like even like African American, I'm not picking these guys, man. Look at this guy. He doesn't even know how to.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? They were faster. They were stronger. They didn't know what the hell they were doing, but I mean, you look, they're athletes, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Someday I feel like I have a story here to tell.
Yeah.
It'll
You
be
have.
fun.
Yeah,
It'll
you
be
do.
fun.
Sure, for
It'll
sure.
be fun.
I wanna bring something up because, and I wanna rescue this from a conversation that you and I had. You were explaining to me 2 days ago. We were having coffee, right? And it was, by the way, a wonderful experience because I got to know more of you as a human being, and I was mesmerized by the discovery. But you said something that really stuck in my mind, and it's been resonating for a while. You were explaining to me you were explaining immigration from the historical phenomena of immigration in general, not just in the States. And you were talking about the reasons why this phenomena has been there forever, right? Sometimes as a pandemic, sometimes as war, sometimes as conflict, sometimes as, and that creates movement
Among
and
animals.
it resonates in different societies. Can you
Yeah,
Can you dwell on
this
that a
comes
little bit?
back to obviously, I think about the Biden administration got a lot of heat for allowing many people to cross the border. But something that's never really talked about is, we all knew this was going to happen. There was a pandemic, right? There was a worldwide pandemic. And Latin America was hit hard. And look, there are other reasons, political reasons in Venezuela, Cuba, whatever. But the fact that we don't understand yet the effect that the pandemic had on certain regions. And it's just a coincidence that, the world shut down and maybe America was prepared in a way, but parts of Latin America were not. And so now, without really getting into, we could talk about this for hours, but there was, scarcity in resources and people realized we got to get out, man. And that's what's been happening always, right? There's migrants, birds migrate for a reason, right? So if you look at history, it's always been about nobody wants to leave. We leave when we realize we're going to die if we don't go, right? Unless you were forced, right? Because obviously a lot of Africans were brought over for slave trade and stuff like that. But immigration always has been because we don't feel safe here. We have to leave, right? When the Jews left Egypt, or we can go back to whenever. Nobody likes to leave. But when you don't feel safe, the human nature, we have to find a place, right? If New York City, I don't believe that it's that dangerous, but if it got really dangerous, I would say, I think it's time to move.
Yeah.
What does that mean? I need to migrate.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm going to go to Florida where it's legal because I'm an American.
Yeah.
But what if I can't go to Florida for whatever reason? I'm probably going to try to go to Canada.
Yeah.
Do I care that whether I can go or not? I don't care. I got to save my family.
Yes.
So the idea of, if we look at migration as sort of part of just human nature, when we feel like we have to go. Now, it's easy to say, well, find another place. Don't come here.
Well, I've heard something related to that, and it's and I think we were talking about it on New Year's Eve because we ended up in this situation. We had New Year's Eve here, a nice dinner, and suddenly a friend of us came with her boyfriend, and he was he crossed the Darien and he crossed America all the way until the United States. And we were talking about his experience, and one other guy said, everybody comes here because America has sold the American dream to the world. And there is a lot of also like good publicity and marketing about this is
Hollywood.
the place, Hollywood, and this is the place, like no
place.
other else. And then that same people who have like created that illusion to the world are against receiving those people who are buying that story.
Yes.
So I found that
100%.
interesting.
I mean, I hear stories all the time. It's like, wait a second. I thought things were amazing here. I just, I just work to live.
Yeah.
Back home, we live first. And we work. And then, we go to, I love to go to Europe. I mean, Europeans live before they work.
Oh my God, yes.
They live.
They
5 p.m.
Yes.
Everyone's out there having a beer, relaxing, enjoying life.
Yes.
Lunches in Latin America could be 2 or 3 hours. And they're not lazy, they're just living. Here, it's like a 20-minute lunch, 5-minute meeting. I had this guy.
There's no time to spare with the family.
I met some guy I wanted to connect with the other day. I really liked him. And he's like, we should meet. I was like, I got excited. Yeah, man. He's like, let's do a Zoom. The hell out of here, man. I don't want to do a Zoom with you. I mean, I want to hang out with you, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's this mentality of like, it's not so great here, but you're right. We do a very good job of selling to the world that everything's great. It's all sunny. There's a lot of money. It's safe. And that's why people come, because they're like, well, it's safe there. It's not safe in my country.
Let me, I'm sorry for the interruption, but just continuing with the story that Zaire was talking about, to me, the most interesting part of it was the ending of that story. He was telling us, I went through all this. I suffered all this, right? And finally, I got here to realize that it was not what I was thinking. I'm not saying it's bad, but it's not that dream reality. And it's not always sunny, always nice. This is the land of prosperity. There are challenges.
I mean, it could be if you work hard, right? But I think it's a matter of like
it could be, but
putting it all into perspective.
It's just life. It's life in general. I don't believe that I've been an immigrant my entire life. I've been moving. When I was a kid, I was already living away from my family. I was living in Cuba by myself, right? Being a kid. And then, New York, and then, Germany, and then Colombia. And then, I've been an immigrant, the majority of my life. And I don't think there's one place in the world that will provide everything. There's no paradise, because life is not paradise. I mean, we have goods and we have bads. It could be, but it could be.
Depends on your.
But
I mean,
it could
I know
be
what you're
here.
saying.
Yes. I don't think is tied to a place. Or what I'm trying to say is that challenges are going to be everywhere. They will be different, but challenges will be everywhere, right? So, to me, it was so interesting, the break of the paradigm breaking the cliche that this guy had in his mind, the Hollywood cliche of this is the land of freedom. This is, you're not going to have problems when you get here. This is so beautiful and whatever. And then here's the other phenomenon, people down there, members of your family or whatever, they see you up there. They don't know the challenges that you're going through. They are just like, wow, he's living the life and he has forgotten about us. So it's so complicated, from the human experience I'm talking about. It's so complicated.
Given that, I think everyone's so excited to get into questions. We have so many questions for you, but maybe you can. Given that you're like on the ground working with people and you've been doing this for now, did you say 15 years or so?
I mean,
roughly?
Give 15, 20 years. Yeah.
Can you tell our audience or give some context? First of all, I wanted to ask, you said that the Biden administration got slack for letting these immigrants in. Are the borders actually open? Because we hear a lot of things from the other.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think, I see what you're saying.
Right.
Look, at the end of the day, people were coming in during the first Trump administration. They were coming in during the Biden administration. Maybe things have slowed down a little bit now, but the reality is, it's easy to see it as, oh, they're just crossing the border. That's not really what happens. They approach a section of the border, and they're coming from places like Cuba, Venezuela, Honduras, where things are really bad for some of these people, and they're claiming asylum at the border.
Right.
They have a right to do that.
Right.
So if they claim asylum and their story makes sense, the government's supposed to give them an opportunity. So they let them in.
Right.
So that's really what's happening.
That's by law, right? That's
yes,
according
that's a
to
law. You can't take that away from them.
Yeah.
You know, they've tried to do a couple of things here and there, but that's, you know, now, do people cross illegally? Yeah. You know, there's a whole smuggling ring in Mexico, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. That happens as well.
Yeah.
So is there a way, but then the other myth is there a way to sort of shut the border down? That's hard, man. Mexico and the United States have, you know, trade, and trucks are coming in and out constantly with, you know, merchandise and things that we need. We know that. We go to the border. You've probably been down there?
I've been to the border many times.
Yeah, and it's interesting if, you know, people from San Diego know this well. You know, hundreds of people cross over to Mexico, Rosarito, all that. Hundreds come back at night. They go to the clubs. Sometimes people don't understand that there is free transit between Mexico and the United States. I was in, you know, San Diego. We took a bus to the border. We walked, we took a taxi, we went to the clubs, and we came back. So I crossed the border with hundreds of party people.
Yes.
Hundreds. Now, was there like maybe people that were not American in that group? I guess so. They probably just slipped in. But this is like an everyday thing. This
everyday
like,
thing. I have plenty of friends who live in Tijuana, and they're from Tijuana, and they work in San Diego.
Yeah, they come back and forth.
They come back and forth every day. Every day. 5 o'clock in the morning, they're getting across the border.
Mexicali and all those places.
Yeah,
and vice versa, by the way. I have a lot of American friends that live, they live in Tijuana because the cost of living is cheaper.
Right.
And they work in San Diego, and they are Americans.
Same thing with El Paso and Juarez.
Paso and Juarez.
You know, if you go to Juarez, there are a lot of Americans living there. That is Mexico.
Yeah.
But they commute, just like New Jersey and New York. You commute.
It's the same thing.
So, and look, again, there are other points of entry, that's what I meant to say earlier, where you can claim asylum and the officer has to tell me your story. Now, what wasn't happening before, maybe I will say like 12 years ago, people didn't know that you can tell a story. They just didn't know. I remember. Now they've learned that if they tell their story, maybe they have a shot of staying. And they do. Once they come in, they come to my office. We work on that story. We make it into a much better story without lying, but we kind of, you know, put some flowers on it here or there. And then we get asylum or like green card and then citizenship. So again, I feel like the message is wrong. It's just too much crap. We're being overloaded with crap when it's not really the way it works.
Right. So, but the going to the border, speak with the agent, claiming asylum is the legal pathway.
That's a legal pathway.
But it's for every nationality?
Yes. Now you have to get through the first stage, but you can come from anywhere. I can come from Italy and say, listen, you know, I can't live in Italy because the government is whatever. I'm Italian.
Yes.
I have dark skin, like Balotelli or something. I don't know. He's a soccer player who's Italian, but he's like African parents. Everyone thinks that you can't, but you know, you have to have a story that makes sense.
Yeah.
So obviously you can't come in and say, I just want to come in.
And then what do you say to those people who say like, well, we can't just have people coming in illegally? Like what about?
I think there's some truth to that as well.
Okay.
And we're talking about people who come in illegally, right? With the smuggling.
Not illegally,
right.
Smuggling, right?
But there's also a reason why this is happening, right? And I think there's a shortage of manpower. If you really think about it, here's another myth. They come here to freeload. No, they don't. Everyone's working. You can't live in America by freeloading. At some point, it's going to end. Even the migrants who are at the shelters in New York City are working. Sure, some of them might get away with it for like 90 days. But at some point, you have to work. We're not going to just sit around and do nothing. They get their mopeds or whatever, and they deliver seamless to all of the rich folks in Manhattan, right? Who order out. who don't cook. I mean, right? Every time they come deliver a package, it's probably some undocumented immigrant driving a little bike, right? So there's a shortage of manpower. If we had some sort of legal way that companies can sort of bring people from abroad when Americans don't want these jobs, and then have them come in maybe even temporarily, and then we can switch them. So I always say, can you imagine, we go back to living in Tijuana, can you imagine you're living in like somewhere in Caracas, or not even Caracas, let's say like a city, Maracaibo, right? Because Caracas could be expensive. And you can come to America, work for 4 months, and go back. Jesus, we'll get a list of people who say, I want to sign up legally. Even if it means to come here to work as like, cleaning. But with 4 months, you have enough to go live. We go back to that conversation of like, people don't want to leave. They love their place of, right? They love to stay where they are, but there's a necessity. So if they had an opportunity to come here to work temporarily and then go back, they would leave, come in and out, and then it would work.
That was happening back in the past.
It's happened in the past, but the problem is politicians got a hold of this, made it into a problem. And now they've convinced so many people that it's a problem that we have to change the mindset, and it's not, it's not easy, man. We're tribal. People are really furious. The country is divided. Kamala got 75 million votes. Trump got 78 million votes. That's a lot of people to convince that this isn't necessarily a problem, or at least that we can fix this if we were to talk. But we don't talk, right?
Which is what we're trying to do.
We're trying to do here,
that topic. And I mean, to speak to that, one of the talking points is that these immigrants are creating crimes, doing crimes. Do you know of do you happen to know any of the statistics on that? And
listen, at the end of the day, what happens is, and there's a law right now that was just passed called I think it's Laken Riley. This is a poor woman, girl who was apparently raped and murdered by an undocumented immigrant in Georgia. That happened. It did happen. And that guy should go to jail forever. And I don't care what the hell happens to that guy. Right? The problem is they use that one case to generalize. And it's so easy, because it's so easy to say, well, she would still be alive if he wasn't here. And that is true. Right? But you know how many people die in America? More than 20,000 people are murdered, I think, in America a year. We don't hear 20,000 stories of who committed those murders. Because I'm sure there was a murder yesterday in Alabama. And some guy who wears a red shirt did it. Well, does that mean now that like we shouldn't wear shirts? If he didn't wear the red shirt, I mean, it's a bad comparison, but the point is that it's so easy where politicians, it's all about talking points. And that's what's great about these podcasts or whatever, these videos, where we can just talk openly. I'm not here with any agenda. I don't care. I'll tell me, if you have something against them, let's debate. I'm not here with a talking point. You can ask me anything you want. I'm not running for office. I don't care about that stuff. So I'm not afraid to talk, right? But these politicians come into these like news shows with like prepared. I've been on these shows.
They have an agenda.
I have these shows, and I was told you can only talk about this. Well, I want to talk about that. No, don't talk about this. You're gonna piss this guy off, this guy off, this guy off. I'm like, but this. You want me to talk and not talk about what the solution? No, the solution's not going to work right now, because it doesn't work that way. The world doesn't work that way. The world does not work that way. There are a lot of interest groups involved here. So you can't just say this.
This is great. We're not beholden to any of them. So I would love to hear some solutions. Do you have?
Well, no, just going back to this idea of like, creating a way where people can come back and forth, right? And I don't know, maybe the unions don't like that, because that can mean like maybe they're not unionized. I don't know, right? Or maybe, for example, if there was a rule, if we want to get tough and say employers who hire them can go to jail. And then you get, immigrant right groups saying, don't say that, man, because then they're going to fire all the immigrants, and then it's all your fault. And I'm like, well, then, okay, if you're not going to fix the problem, then here we go. Right? Because, if I was an employer, I can't hire anyone. I can't hire anyone. I mean, I have clients who are not legal, and they sometimes ask me for work, and I said, I can help you on your case, but I can't hire you.
Right.
It's a crime to hire you.
Right.
But if you go to every restaurant, or a lot of them in Manhattan, they're all working.
Right.
Right? And employers are like, just keep your mouth shut. Don't say that, man. You're going to get us in trouble. But again, we go back to this, and then we don't really want to solve the problem. And I'm not saying fire them, deport them. I'm saying keep the ones that are here that are good people. Let's get rid of criminals. And we have to decide what a criminal is, right?
Yeah.
Because I just got pulled over for a ticket. I'm not a criminal.
Yeah.
But sometimes they're like, you know, he's a criminal.
Yeah.
Dude, he has a parking ticket. Like, you're really going to call him a criminal for that?
Yeah.
Or even something as bad, you know, I did it growing up, you know, jumping the turnstile. Maybe we shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
But is that a criminal, or is that some guy who just, I don't know why people do
wants
things.
to
It's a
save-
misdemeanor, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, well, it's not even the misdemeanor, but the point, it's
Yeah.
less than that.
Yeah.
But, you know, we have to decide what a criminal is. If I'm dealing and selling heroin, I'm a criminal.
Yeah.
If I'm murdering, raping, I'm a criminal.
Of
Yeah.
course.
But if I'm smoking a joint, I don't smoke. I mean,
Yeah.
really? Is that really like...
Yeah.
I don't smoke, but like,
Yeah.
is that really a problem?
Well,
I don't
think
know.
it's legal now, right?
No,
And it's even, but
legal,
I'm talking about before it was legal,
before,
right?
before.
You catch some guy with a joint, now he's screwed.
Yes.
I'm like, really?
yes.
I mean, and it was. That's the
was.
rule. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I got
there-
picked up a few times.
Yeah. I mean, you're American, but the point is, it's bad.
But
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's bad.
Yeah.
It's a controlled substance, so.
Yeah.
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 Wow. It's
So
fascinating.
what do you think it's the future for immigrants in this country?
Whew. That doesn't look good right now, right? We still have, I mean, he did win the election. It's just the beginning right now. We're in February of 2025. He has another 4 years to do whatever he wants. I mean, obviously, we'll see what happens with Congress in 2 years.
Yeah.
But, and we also have a court system that can stop a lot of stuff. But he's talking about taking away citizenship for kids who were born here, but when the parents are undocumented.
Yeah.
That's going to get, obviously, you know, we're going to have to deal with that in court for years to come, and we'll see what the Supreme Court says. But if the Supreme Court agrees with that position, then the country will change.
Isn't that in the Constitution?
I know, but and that's my argument. But they also have an argument that in 1770 something happened. You know, Alexander Hamilton said this, and the court will have to decide.
Wow.
And if the court says you're right, you know, when Hamilton and Jefferson sat, you know, they forgot to sign that document. I don't know. I'm making stuff up. But the point is, like, they're bringing in back laws from back in 1700s to try to make an argument that maybe it was never the intention to give, you know, just like they can bring back, you know, African Americans were not even people back then, right? So why don't we bring all that stuff back too as well, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's how crazy this is. But when you have the court on your side, and I'm not saying the court's on his side, but I don't know. Right. Maybe. So the question is, what do we I don't think anyone knows. I don't know.
Now,
and I've been doing this for 20 years, and I don't know. Whoever says they know, they don't know.
Wow.
I don't know.
So that's about the future.
Yeah.
What about the present? What's the present?
Well, the present is, it's scary for a lot of people because it's so uncertain, right? Tomorrow you can go to work and not come back, and your kids are home, and dad's not home, mom's not home, and they're calling you from Mexico, and like, I don't know what happened, right? So it's just a matter of figuring it out. A lot of people, I mean, look, people are, right now my office is 3 times the amount of people that are coming in compared to a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
So we were getting around 40 appointments a day. Now it's like 130
Wow.
a day.
Wow.
I just got my list for tomorrow. It's like 130 people. So, you know, we kind of case by case, kind of during COVID, right? Where a lot of my friends who are doctors were just like, you know, we're getting in patients and we kind of have to figure it out. Some die, some don't, some survive, some don't. And it's the same thing. You know, out of 140 people that are coming in a day, I'm able to help some I can't help. Some, I mean, we got to deal with.
How do you disattach from that, like from losing?
That was going to be one of my questions.
Right,
That's a question that I always wanted to ask doctors and attorneys, because I've seen your soul. I've sensed your soul.
Yeah.
You're a great human being,
Yeah.
and I know that, you know, you have this wonderful heart. How do you handle it? How do you disattach?
It's hard. I mean, it's very hard. after several years, sometimes there's no time, right? So I see people from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Wow.
nonstop. I have a team of people, but I'm nonstop. So, a family of, it's 4:00. A man comes in with his 3 kids to tell me he has cancer and that he's afraid to get deported. And I'm sitting there, and while he's telling me that story, my door opens and they're like, we got more people here. And it's like, oh my God, but they have their story as well. So it becomes this thing where, I have to be very careful. How do I end this? Especially if I can help him, I'm like, look, this is what I can do for you. This is what I can't do for you. And then once he leaves that, I have another story of a woman being like, whatever. And then it's like nonstop.
Wow.
And then I go home and I have to
You have a family.
And I have a family, and I have to,
Yeah.
there's a diaper issue.
Yeah.
And there's this, and then there's that. And then the next day I have another group of people coming in. So at some point, I think that what doctors do is they kind of have to keep going.
Yeah.
They have to keep going. They don't have time to, we talk about things, and, that's why sometimes I'll have a coffee or a matcha or I don't drink matcha, but the point is that I'll have a beer.
I'm sorry about that, brother.
I had it once. It's probably good, right? I added some milk.
you.
Maybe the milk was spoiled. I don't know what the hell was going on, but I was like, yeah, I don't like this stuff, man. That was recently, actually. It was the first time because I was part of, overflow of information. I was like, okay, I need a break here, man. This is too much for me. And this was even before Trump. And I was like, I don't know, man. Something's not right.
Wow.
And someone's like, you should drink some matcha. I said, what is that? It's like, what is that? It's like New York liberal stuff.
It's coming.
Huh?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm from Queens. At the end of the day, I'm a lawyer, but I'm from Queens. I'm like, what is that? Upper West Side liberal drink? They're like, no. Come on, man. Stop being dumb. And this is like blah, blah, blah. So I went in. I ordered one. I said, okay, it's green. Sure. Put some milk in it to give it some life. And then I tried
some sugar as well and everything.
I don't remember, but I thought it was supposed to like relax you or something.
Yeah, it's supposed to be very relaxing.
It didn't relax me.
No,
It was just like, no. Maybe I don't know, whatever.
My brother.
It tastes like grass. Was it a little grassy?
It was a little grassy.
Yeah.
I just decided I'm just gonna go
It's
for
an
the. I'm
acquired
just gonna go
taste.
for the Xanax. It's so much easier. Or the Scotch.
But all joking aside, I wonder if that was the inspiration for you now producing and creating this series. Is that what you're using as an outlet?
Of 100%. Yeah. So, we go back to this idea of like wanting to create and how do I get my message across? I do have social media. I do put out videos. I mean, now I was kind of one of the first attorneys that was out there back in 2017. It was me and 2 other attorneys. Now there's like hundreds of them. So I'm competing with like, how do I get the best message out there so that my videos can actually reach the right people? Because it's so funny because I've learned so much about social media. In the beginning, it's like, hi, good evening.
Yeah.
My name is what? Wrong. You don't do that because now it's like, goodbye. So I shouldn't have given that away because that's a secret.
Yeah.
You don't do that.
Yeah,
People are going to be like, boring, bye.
Yeah.
So I have to think about a hook and I have to think about this and I try different things and I get creative. And the other day I hit 7 million views on TikTok.
Wow.
And completely improvised.
Wow.
But then when I see the video, I realized what the hook was. I grabbed the camera, and I got this idea from Adrian Brody. He has he walks around with his camera,
Right.
and the only thing I can see is like he's happy, he has a huge nose, and he's telling some fun story. And I said, I kind of have a big nose. I'm going to just grab my camera and talk about immigration while I'm walking, right? And visually, when you see that, not only am I talking, things are happening. People are watching. Where is this guy? And that, boom, 7 million people on TikTok.
Wow.
Right.
And then I realized it wasn't the message, it was the video, right? Because if I'm in behind my office dressed with a suit, that's like what everybody has. There's nothing different about that.
Sure.
So that's a constant thing. But anyway, the point is that me and my friend, really, Martin Chamorro, who's a playwright, he's written plays, we decided, why don't we tell some of these stories and we do it like cinematically, right?
Yeah.
And then somebody had suggested that there was this short form vertical. I took a look at it. What I found was terrible, but I realized it was more of a corporate thing that they're doing in other parts of the world. There's a lot of websites where you can pay. And I said, why don't we do this, but we do it, in a better quality. We're not filmmakers, but we can figure this out and see what happens. So we started, Martin and I, he writes most of it, and then I kind of edit and change a couple things. And then we just kind of shot a few episodes, and we told a story. I told him something that happened to me personally, and it worked.
Wow.
Kind of worked. And that's where we have now. We're on Instagram. We didn't want to put it on YouTube because we feel like everybody's going to YouTube. So why don't I just try Instagram? Because I don't think anyone has ever done it on Instagram. And you're like, yeah, but the platform is YouTube. No. That's what we've been told. But I'm going to do it here. No. You don't understand. This works on YouTube. No, I'm going to do it here because nobody has done it here. And I want Instagram to see that we can also do something here. That was my idea, right? I still don't know what this is going to become because the algorithm plays with you, right? But I still have meetings with people and they're like, go to TikTok. They have their own website for this. No, you don't understand. I haven't seen something like this on Instagram. I'm going to stick to this and then build it from here because it's so much easier to be that one guy, right? As opposed to, it's hard on other platforms because you have to. And so we decided to put it on Instagram. We're still learning. Today, I just called Martin and I said, I think some of these episodes need a hook because we're telling a story, but if we start the scene like a regular scene, why would you want to keep watching this scene? So we're still learning. We're in the process of this. I'm not, the idea is we're going to keep going for 4 years. The story is obviously I have 1,000 stories from my office that I can, dealing with judges, prosecutors, detectives, clients. Oh my God, I've seen the whole thing. So I have like 1,000 stories, good ones, funny ones. Oh my goodness. I had this guy come in drenched in blood, like he was bleeding. And I'm like, what the hell happened? And he's like, I'm here. I need help. I'm like, but you shouldn't be calling 911. No, you don't understand. The police is like looking for my wife. Why? Right? And then I see some little lady walk in with a pan. She walked into my office with a pan. He's like, here you are. And she had struck him in the head with a, tell him what you did. Tell him I found you with the other woman.
Wow.
And then he's like, dude, the police is after a helper. I don't want her getting arrested and deported. And I was like, whoa. What the hell is going on here?
Wow.
So we're thinking of kind of figuring out how do we, it was so funny, dude.
Right.
It was the funniest. I mean, look, it's tragic.
Yeah.
But I ended up going to the police station and I said, are you looking for him? He's like, yeah, we're looking for her. She whacked him in the head with a freaking pan. And I said, look, they're my clients. Can we figure something out? And they were laughing. The cops were like, tell her, she does that again, we're going to arrest her.
Yeah.
So when I finally got to the office, this guy's like with all this paper towel. I'm like, I think I saved her. And she's like, you son of a bitch. I mean, I shouldn't have said it. She's like, why'd you do that? And I was just like, oh my Lord. And we're thinking, I remember telling that story. I'm like, we should do something. That was crazy.
Wow.
So you do draw from stories?
Oh, they're all.
your
I mean,
stories?
look, I've changed a couple of things. The first episode is pretty intense. And it's kind of something similar happened to me. Not exactly, but
I watched the series.
Yeah.
I couldn't understand everything, unfortunately.
Yeah, of course, it's in Spanish.
It's in Spanish.
Yeah.
So
We have the English subtitle version, but we haven't.
I can't wait to
We
see
we
it.
haven't decided what to do with it yet.
But it was so well done,
Yeah.
the production value, and
Yeah.
it really felt like. Do you remember the original season of Law and Order?
Yeah.
It felt a little bit like that.
Yeah.
It was like,
And I'll tell you something. We are. I mean, look. I think the team is putting a lot of heart into it,
Mm-hmm.
but we know it could be better. But we're kind of like figuring things out as we go. So
That's the best
I'm
way.
sure.
That's the best
I mean,
way.
if you're a filmmaker, you're like,
Yeah.
listen, I'll tear this apart. I'm like, you probably can, but I mean, we're having
Yeah.
fun doing
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
and I feel like even in the editing, I'm like, how did we get to here? And we have
Right.
arguments over, no, I don't like that. Why do you keep using this? This is whatever. I don't like that scene. Just like I'm sure everybody
Of
does.
course.
But we're shooting it in a studio. We have to decide how to figure things out. The lighting is not up to me. It's a collaboration. And that's what's great, right? It's not all up to, we have 6 people involved, right? From obviously DP and, directors and the script and all this other stuff and the editing and Sure. It's funny because I showed it to a friend of mine who's a filmmaker. He's doing really well. He shoots these movies and he says, yeah, I mean, the lighting is terrible. And I was like, okay, dude, I shot something with him that was like 30 seconds. It took 12 hours.
Yeah.
All right. This is like 2-hour scenes that we have to in and out.
Yeah.
So I said, dude, I don't have 12 hours like you do with like your FX 27G red camera I have like a result,
Yeah.
So we do what we can.
Yes.
And I'm sure it's going to continue to get better and better and better.
100%. You should be proud of it
yeah,
because it's really good.
Yeah,
It's
I
really
think-
good. It's really, really good. And you're conveying a message that's important as well. I think you should, and we talk about this too, I think you should do something in English as well because I believe that that's going to help a lot of people understand the other side of the coin.
I thought about that today.
Right.
The other side of the coin.
I said, what if we would have done something like this? The problem is the goal in the beginning was different than it is now.
Yeah.
You know, I was more of like, let's have fun. Let's see what happens. I want to get, I want people to know I speak Spanish.
Yes.
It's just so funny because it's almost like we talked about that. And it's like, I wanted people to know I speak Spanish, right? And I wanted to show them that. And I wanted my clients to enjoy this more than anybody else.
Yeah.
That was for them.
Yeah.
But even how we not sold it, but we targeted different, it's weird how these things work. And I'm sure you guys know, what works in like New York doesn't work in Texas. And all of a sudden we're getting like huge hits in Argentina and Colombia. And we're like, why? But then, a friend of mine showed me a map of the US, what the hit shows are, and it was incredible. Like every state had a hit show on Netflix. That wasn't, how do you explain that stuff? That's crazy.
It's culture.
But even within the United States, right? You had Daredevil doing well in or Breaking Bad was like obviously New Mexico, but like because they felt like it's me. I was like, wow, this is crazy. Like we thought it's like everybody watches. No. Some shows,
So what's coming for you in the next few years? Like what's your goal,
Well, I have a
your
kid.
projects? What do you want to do with your platform? With both of your careers and like what's
so right
horizon?
now I'm kind of I just had a baby with my wife, so obviously I'm excited about that. I think that's the most important part, right? Your
That's the
family.
biggest project.
That's the biggest project I have. My daughter is 7. She has an interest in like playing, and now she's like writing a little bit, so I'm excited about, who knows, I was telling my wife in a few years I'm kind of writing a play with her and for her friends. And I feel like at the end of the day, listen, it's all about having a good time, right? Having fun, regardless of what you do.
Yeah.
Whatever I do, like as far as The Office, we don't know what to expect. I mean, look, as far as like The Office is concerned, there's a lot of uncertainty. All we can do, like I said, is work. We'll see what happens tomorrow. Every day is a different, I heard some like horrible rumor of there was going to be large-scale arrests in Los Angeles, and that was a memo that was kind of leaked. So whatever we see now is probably nothing compared to what's coming.
Wow.
That said, I don't want to scare anyone. I don't know, but you never know, right? I think there's a lot of pressure from the White House to like, we want to blow this up. 1,000 people a day is nothing. That's nothing. We want to see 10,000 arrests a day, which will scare the crap out of the entire country. But I think that's the goal. I think they want to create this show of like, people going on trains and buses and what the hell? That's what they want to do. So I don't know. But that's why I kind of have to be careful because all of this stuff, even for someone like me, causes like a lot of anxiety of like, what's going to happen tomorrow? I want to take it. I want to chill
for
out.
everybody I mean, I just came from Florida, from Miami, and you can feel like, and the anxiety and the fear is not just for illegal immigrants. You also feel it for like legal immigrants. Like
Just saw a video today.
Yeah, I think about my parents. Like they are residents of the United States, and I'm scared for them because just by the fact that they could be, stopped and ask questions
Profile.
and be
Well,
put in a
us.
uncomfortable
us.
situation,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So
And how are we going to react, right?
Yeah,
Because I'm going to
yeah.
be the first one to be like, you're not going to ask me questions.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
then at that point, they're like, well, we'll just take you in.
Yeah.
And then at that point, I'll have to be like, man, I don't want to go in. I mean, I know they're going to release me, but I want to go.
Yeah.
I'm meeting somebody for a drink, dude. I don't want to.
Yeah.
So, and it's sad. It's sad. I just
is.
saw a video today, American citizens being pulled over and being asked whether they were citizens. This is like in New Mexico, and they were mad. Well, we're American. What the hell's wrong with you? They're like, well, prove it. And it was like, are you kidding me? Are we becoming this? And it's only been 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So what's gonna in a year? We're like, oh my God, dude. I mean, this is scary.
Yeah.
And then as far as my, the series, we're gonna keep going. We're getting a lot of calls. We talked a little bit about how it's overwhelming because we get calls from this guy and this guy and this guy, and I don't even know where to go with all this stuff. And then yesterday we had a meeting, and I said, listen, I think we need to just chill out and let's see where everything happens. It's so easy to get excited when someone that at least you look up and is like kind of important is talking to you, but sometimes it doesn't go anywhere, and you're like, you got to be chill out because that, the other day I was having this with Martin. He's like, well, I'm thinking about moving this scene just in case this person sees it. I said, no, what are we doing, man? Like, and I can see that, like, we can't let this take over us because what are we doing? That's not even part of the story, but you want to, oh my God, but that can happen easily. That's so dangerous.
It is.
Right?
It is. It is.
You're like, let me get my best side here just in case somebody sees it. What the hell? And it's not natural. You look like an idiot now, but
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
On that point, I did want to ask earlier, but it kind of just brought up now. I'm just wondering, like, from your clients and what you're hearing on the ground, like, has ICE been working in New York and
especially in like the boroughs, and people are not really coming out.
I've heard
the
that.
restaurants are kind of like, not Manhattan, obviously. I was in Times Square the other day. I said, I mean, this seems safe. But if you go to the Bronx and you go to like Queens, and people are kind of like, I don't know, I'm staying home, man.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about this today because, right now, just like during COVID, we're going to stay home. But at some point, people were like, screw this. I can't stay.
Yeah.
I remember having an argument with my wife, April.
Yeah.
So COVID kind of shut down March 20th. And my wife, and we're like, we have a baby. My daughter was younger. Let's stay home, right? And I said, okay, let's stay home. But come April 15th, I was getting restless. I said, this is not healthy. I'm going to go run. I'm going to go run in the park. And she's like, just be careful. I'm like, oh my Lord, man, I can't stay here. So I feel the same way. Right now, everything's cool. But once the weather gets, what are they going to do? They're going to have to come out. They're going to have to accept the fact that this may happen if I go out. Right? People like to gather. They go to parks. They go to.
And also, I mean, most of these people, they have to make a living.
They have to work.
They have to work.
Maybe they've taken some days off now, but they're going to have to work.
Yeah.
And can you give some pointers? What are they supposed to do if they are stopped? What are their rights? Could you just?
I mean, look. I mean, obviously, this is easier said than done, but immigration doesn't know whether you're legal or not. Right? They have to ask you. And if you don't tell them, they really have no evidence. Now, they're bullies, right? So they're going to try to get that information from you as best as they can. And before I was a lawyer, I was also a federal agent. So I was taught how to get information from people without, hurting them. But you have to kind of play psychological, be like, I already know the answer. Just tell me. It's going to be easy for you. I'm here to help you. Kind of like, I don't know if you've ever dealt with reporters, the investigative journalists. They're the nicest people ever, man. But there's a reason why. They need you to tell them things. They're not your friends. And then you read the story, and then you're like, what the hell? Well, you told them everything, man. Right? It's so funny because I had my experience with, I'm nothing against them. That's how they do their job. They're very nice. Just tell me everything. They write it up, and then whap, here you go. And you're like, you son of a, right? So it's the same way. Some of these guys are very nice. They're like, listen, don't listen to that lawyer guy on TV. He's full of shit. We're going to arrest him soon. I'm not afraid of that. But the point is, I'm here to help you. I'm the guy with the gun. Just tell me you don't have papers and I'll release you. They're like, well, yeah, I don't have papers. All right, come on. And then when they get there, they're like, listen, sorry, man, I can't really release you anymore. That's the game they play. So listen, it's easier for me to say it. And many people will be like, oh, whatever, dude. That's not true. But yeah, you kind of keep your mouth shut and then figure it out. And if you get arrested, you can use that in court to file a motion and say, listen, I was stopped because of the color of my skin, which is unconstitutional. You can probably, win your case. You're not going to be able to legally stay in the U.S., but you might get released because the government's going to have to prove that they stopped you because or at least they have enough evidence that you are undocumented. If you tell them, then you've told them.
Right.
But if you didn't tell them, if I ask you, how do you know she's not, for example? What are you going to just look? You got to give me an answer, man.
Yeah.
And if you don't say, she told me, why was she stopped? I'm the judge. I want to know, why was this gentleman stopped? Yeah. And if you say, I suspected, why? Why did you suspect? What? I don't understand. This guy could be from anywhere.
Yeah.
So they can't. Yeah. If they say, well, the color of their skin.
But what they're trying to change now, or this is what I heard when I was in Miami, is that they were trying to now skip the fact that you face a judge, that they can deport you right away without any right to a hearing.
Yeah.
Which is really like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can they do that legally?
I think they can try it. And even if they get sued, they're going to fight it. And it's going to cause enough, it's going to scare the crap out of people.
Yeah.
So look, a lot of things they can't do. That's the reality. There's an article in the Washington Post, I think, about there was a call with the White House. And they're like, what the hell's going on here? You guys are only deporting or arresting 1,000 people a day. And the system says we can't do anything else. Well, we need to see 2,000 arrests a day, minimum. We can't do that. I don't care, man. That's what the president wants, period. Figure it out. And then, a couple of it was in today's paper, 3 heads of immigration were fired because they're like, I just don't know how we can't do that. Yeah. Okay, you're fired. Get the hell out of here. You're fired. Get out.
Wow.
So that's the scary part where, at what point is this going to get crazy where, if you hear some of the public comments, and again, I don't want to make this political, but it's like some of the things that are happening, right? There was this whole audit of the federal government and the judge says you can't do that. And now they're saying we're going to fire that judge. Well, you can't do that. Well, Congress can because one judge can't tell the president what to do. Yes, that's the way the system is meant. Yeah. No, not this one. We're going to fire his ass and we're going to figure it out.
Wow.
And it's interesting because some of the criticism that we've had of these left-wing governments is exactly what we're trying to do, but with the Bible in our hand.
Yeah.
See how it's different?
Yeah.
We're doing exactly what they do. The difference
Same
is we have the Bible in our hand, so it's okay for us.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid that a lot of people might say, we've taken many things for granted. A lot of people might say, I'm okay with that. Wait a second. What about democracy? And then, I don't care, man. As long as you get rid of all these immigrants, I'm okay with a king. Why not?
Wow.
So it's like the mentality of a lot of people. You hear it. If we go out there, people will be like, I'm okay with this.
That was what the revolution was about, was to get rid of kings. And so we're talking about bringing
some
a king
people
back.
are okay with that as long as they get what they want. And that's human nature. It's sad, but that's what we've become. And I'm not talking about I'm talking about friends and family and people I ask that are very kind of yeah, this is what I want. This hasn't worked. Democracy does not work because too many dumb people vote. That's sometimes the rhetoric here that I hear. That's how stupid this is. It happened, right?
Wow.
But we hear it in Latin America when ultra left-wing governments get elected.
Yeah.
Oh, they're so stupid. Right, because your team didn't win.
Right.
But that's what democracy is. Now, if they cheat, that's a different story.
Yeah.
But when they legitimately win, the side that loses says, it's just that our pueblo is so stupid.
Yeah.
And I hear that and I'm thinking, then you're really not democratic.
Yeah.
You just want to win.
Yeah.
You're only democratic when you win.
Yeah.
Now, again, there's a lot of cheating. There's a lot of crap going on.
There's
Shady
corruption.
things,
I mean, that's a different story. Yeah.
But I feel like at least I'm hearing from people here that this is what we voted for. This is what we got. I don't care if he breaks it all up.
Wow.
So we'll see what happens with that, right?
That's scary.
It's scary.
It's scary.
And hopefully we survive this. Some
Wow.
think we will. And I hope we do. It's all going to depend on, I don't know, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's tough.
You have another question in that regard?
I don't even know what to say after hearing that, because
I have a question. I have a question for you. Two questions. The first one, what is your definition of soul? Your definition of soul, And
everything else was so easy, man. Now you got me into these.
And how does that, where's the soul behind all this?
Yeah. I might have to take my time here to think about, right? Because I really want to give you a answer. Like maybe I've never even thought about this, right?
Or the humanity.
Yeah.
The humanity behind this, right?
Yeah. So I'm very aware that we're only going to be here for a significant period of time. Let's start with that. I already know that. I've accepted that. Some people are afraid to talk about these things, but listen, it's the truth.
Yeah. It's very short.
It's very short.
Very short.
And as you get older, it becomes shorter for some.
Yes, it does.
So I know that I have a limited time left in this world, and I'm going to try to enjoy it. And I'm going to try to be happy with myself, whatever that means. And if that means helping, having fun, just trying to be a good person, then it's kind of selfish in a way that this is what I'm going to do. Because what I don't want is, at the end of the day, think, man, I could have been much better at this. So, maybe in a way, I don't know. I'm very spiritual. I'm also religious. I do believe in God, and I believe that I'm being, in a way, guided. Right? Something is telling me every day when I get up. Something is telling me, try to do good. I'm not perfect. Listen, I'm not.
Nobody is.
Nobody is.
Right.
There's, of course not. I mean, and I make mistakes, and I can get jealous, and I can get envious, and I can get. I have all that. That's just part of human, right?
Yeah.
But it's also about like understanding why we are a certain way and seeing if we can, with relationships with my wife, we're constantly trying to improve. It's not easy. We've been together, 12 years, and every day is a challenge, and we try to work that. But I would say that I do feel that there's a presence kind of taking me places. Yeah, obviously I was raised Catholic. Maybe that has something to do with it. But I do believe that something is guiding me, and something is saying, come this way. Try to do as the best you can possibly do. And look at and these things change. What's important 5 years ago is not important as much now. It might not be important enough in 5 years. We're just talking about if you ask me in 5 years and my daughter wants to write a play, I might just, this is what's important right now. I don't care what your movies or whatever we're doing. This is my project for the year.
Yeah.
So not really sure I'm answering the question, but I'm thinking about these things legitimate. Like, I'm trying to give you an honest opinion as opposed to just giving you a textbook definition of the soul.
Right.
That's,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there is, I also believe there's energy. I feel your energy. I can feel it. You probably feel mine, and I think that's something that either it's hard to study or we don't talk about enough. But there's a reason why people don't get along or get along. I've always, and recently I've started thinking about that stuff. There has to be. Yeah, we call it attraction or we call it different things, but I think there's something else here, because there has to be a reason why I meet someone. I'm like, I don't want anything to do with this person right now. Or you could be my best friend all of a sudden.
Or I want to do a project with this person, or I want to
trust them.
help this person, or or I want to do something for him. Or
now, whether it's just us and we're just a ball of energy, or someone's guiding it, I don't know. I want to
Mhm.
believe that there's someone guiding it because I want this to keep going, right? Because if it ends after this, man, I'm like, oh man, am I gonna have a memory of this stuff? Yeah.
But it's somehow
Wonderful.
connected with whatever you define as your soul or soul.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, we can call it different ways, but you know, yeah, there's something that keeps us going. Yeah. Yeah.
And in that regard, going back to everything you have been witnessing through your job as an attorney, you know, and all those stories, what have you learned? What do you keep learning every day in terms not in terms of matter, physical matter, you know, but in terms of your soul? What's the biggest lesson that you, if you have to give one?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of people, and this is what I've learned through hearing stories, and not just from my clients, but like, you know, judges and prosecutors and police officers, whoever, everything. I think there's a lot of people that are suffering. Like I see a lot of suffering. And I wish we would be more open and sort of, this is something I learned with actors, that we are more willing to open up. Society doesn't like to open up, right? They're very protected. They're afraid that, you know, but with actors, and that just recently, because they're so open to like emotions and vulnerable. And that's something I love, because now that I'm kind of playing with this, I see this other world of people who are so, you know, unhappy, not willing to, you know, sort of open up, you know, men, women, yeah, more so than like clients, right? Because we all, look, at the end of the day, it's easy to say, you know, all immigrants are victims and all this other stuff. Yeah, sure, all that is true. But at the same time, if you ask me what I've learned, I feel like the world needs to be a little bit more open. People need to be open and talk about what their fears are. Yeah.
By
right?
open, you mean vulnerable as well?
I would say open in the sense of wanting to share what they're feeling to see if someone can maybe guide them a certain way. There's a lot of drug abuse. There's a lot of alcohol abuse, medication. There's a lot of different things that we do. And I feel like a lot of people are hurting. So they're looking for all of these
escape
mechanisms to try to calm their fears of maybe dying someday, right?
Yeah.
Of not being able to socialize, right? I mean, and I think if we talked more, so I'll give you an example, and this is, I mean, maybe I shouldn't say this because my wife will kill me, but I think kids, and not everyone can afford this, but I think kids can benefit from therapy as well. Because not call it therapy, but like maybe there are other words like, you know, feelings doctors and stuff like that. Because I think, especially our generation and stuff, our parents, the way we dealt with things, you know, men were not supposed to cry, boys were not supposed to cry, women are weaker, men are physically stronger. All these like things that we were taught. Now we're a bunch of like cavemen walking around doing crazy stuff. And it comes way back of not really, you know, being able to express ourselves when we were kids, right? Think about this. Like, seriously, boys were not allowed to cry. Crying is so important to release
100%
hormones and things that can
100%.
There's a reason why we cry.
100%.
Sometimes, have you heard it feels good to cry sometimes?
100%.
When someone dies,
it's natural.
It's natural.
When we're babies, we cry. It's natural.
And I think the body is really smart, right? It cries because it releases tension that way. And if you are not allowed, now you're holding all of this anger back. And then that's why people kind of blow up sometimes because they don't know how else to react.
Yeah.
You know, so when we cry when someone dies, and that's kind of acceptable, right? They can't cry for 3 days, but it's weird.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, but I feel like again with kids, it starts with kids and being open. Tell me about your feelings. Tell me what you're feeling. Not judging them, right?
Yeah.
Oh, give me this, give me that. You're not supposed to take that away from him. You're not supposed to do this.
Yeah.
As opposed to figuring that, and I'm learning that with my kids, like how they're playing with toys and like, so a neighbor comes in and takes her toy. And then the rule is you're supposed to share your toy, right? But the reason she doesn't want to share is from some natural sense of property. This is mine. I have to fight for this. Why do I have to give it up to society? Just because she wants it? So I can be a better person? All these things we start, that's what we're taught.
Yeah.
And the question becomes whether that, I don't know. My friend always says, it's funny, he was talking to me and I said, he's like, our parents treated her this way, this way, this way. Kids nowadays, they get all this like therapeutic stuff. It's all bullshit, dude, because we turned out okay, right? I'm like, I don't think we're okay, dude. Yeah. He's like, and I turned out okay. I don't think you're okay, man. Yeah. So anyway, I mean, listen, yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Good.
That's awesome.
Wow. Yeah, this was wonderful.
Yeah.
You guys have more
great.
questions? I
I've never
have plenty of questions, but we're going to have to do like another episode.
We'll see how this one goes.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Man.
Thank
This
you
was fun.
Especially thank you for opening up.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting us see.
Feels good.
Your soul.
We go back to feeling good.
Yes.
Because sometimes, again, we go on TV and it's like, I'm not allowed to say.
Yeah.
So you feel like, okay, I'm just here to repeat like a parrot.
Yeah.
Now I was open, like, I don't know.
That's wonderful.
I guess I'll pay the price later when
thank you for
the clip goes viral. I'm like, did I? You know what? I mean, I was taken out of context, man.
I think, I just want to add something to the conversation of opening up very quickly, because sometimes we grow up with this idea of not allowing ourselves to be seen because that makes you vulnerable, because that makes you weak. And in some other cultures, we have been talking about Kung Fu, Tai Chi. It's actually the opposite. You become stronger when you allow yourself to be seen, when you open your heart, when you show your vulnerabilities and you invite, into that dance. Even in martial arts, if you become stiff and you try to be rigid, you're breakable. But if you're like water, you are unbreakable. You navigate with it. You dance, and it's about the wave. It's about the dance. So, I just wanted to say that when you open up the way you're doing right now with us, and and you're letting us see you as a person, not just as an attorney or a public figure or as an actor, but you're sharing who you are. You're not just receiving, but also you're creating an impact. And that's beautiful, because that exchange of information literally, I believe, changed the world. Because that's when you're really creating that wave, right?
Yeah.
And that's beautiful. So thank you for that.
Thank you for this. This was
and
fun.
thank you for having coffee and not matcha.
Yeah.
Matcha is,
too grassy. It's too grassy. It's an acquired taste.
You're right. Like mate in Argentina.
Like mate. Right, like mate.
Thank you so much, Ron.
Thank you.
You're the best, guys.
Great.
All right.
Okay.
Cut.